And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Top Dog Talk podcast. I'm your host, Harris Sereno. Dan Kiley is en route to his studio place where he does the show. He will be on here joining us here in a little bit. We are running a little bit late today, as I think some of y'all know. If you tune into what we do over the UJ Sports YouTube channel, P State Power, we ran a little bit overtime, so that's why we're a little bit late today. But nonetheless, we advertised that we would have a Top Dog Talk reaction show to the college football playoffs, and that's what we're bringing you tonight. A lot to get to. Georgia are your back-to-back SEC champions. They've won 3 out of the last 5 years in the SEC championship. They are also now set for the college football playoffs. That bracket was revealed today on Selection Sunday. Whew, a lot of talking points, and at least for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm solo. So let's go ahead and dive right into the college football playoff rankings because I got a few takes to talk about in terms of these rankings. Let's start, I guess, with my overall takeaways in terms of just the rock and the hard place that the committee put itself in. And not even just itself, but college football as a sport put itself in. Guys, we have a playoff structure in a not-so-perfect world that is college football these days. All things are not created equal. We know that. And it makes it really, really hard in terms of how we do this as a sport when there is no parity aside from the talent on the roster now. Yes, seven of these teams, 7 of the top 12 teams, there will be legitimate parity in terms of talent. Maybe 4 or 5 of them will be on equal fields in terms of talent and depth. But beyond that, there's not much parity in the sport. There is no parity in scheduling. Schedules are not all created equal like the NFL. Conferences are not all created equal. It is not equally as difficult to win the SEC as it is to win, say, the Big 12 or the ACC. It's not. And we really can't control that. The college football playoffs can't control that. But what they can control is what they do with the circumstances they're given. And I will give them credit on this. They did the best of what they could. Going into this afternoon, my mind was, hey, I think there's 3 or 4 disaster scenarios in terms of DEFCON level. I think there was 3 of them. And I think we're at DEFCON level 1 right now, which is the least mode of panic, the least mode of chaos. And here's why. There was a 2-prong approach in terms of issues here, in terms of what the college football playoff had to deal with. The first, conference championships. How much do those matter? How do you make those matter more than they already do? Because let's face it, conference championships are not what they used to be. We know that, and I get it. It hasn't changed anything for the teams on the field. Georgia still won the SEC championship. That still means something to that program, as Kirby Smart said time and time again when asked about the SEC championship. But in terms of making into the field, Georgia was in the SEC championship or was in the college football playoffs regardless of that result. So how do you make those matter? If, as a product, as a sport, if we want the conference championships to remain as a piece of this foundation, which after being at the Benz, this is my second SEC championship that I've covered. That place is unique. That place is awesome. Amazing atmosphere. Amazing game. I've been there twice. Hasn't lost its luster. I love that place. I love that game. I want to see it stay in place. And I don't think it will. So how do you prevent that? Well, conference championships have to matter. And you can't be punished for a conference championship for losing it. So how do you do that? Because in Alabama's case for the committee, 12 games of sample size. Off Alabama's 12 games, they were a college football playoff team. They were heading into this weekend, and they are coming out of it. So the committee was put in a place of, hey, do we take Alabama's 12-game sample size, regardless of the conference championship, and say they're in? Or do we take the 13-game sample size, include the conference championship, and say, hey, you played in this game. Congratulations. You played for the SEC championship, but you lost, and now you're out. They obviously gave their answer. They said, hey, we're taking your 12-game sample size, and we're not going to punish you for playing in the conference championship. Second thing that they had to, we'll call this the potholes, the 2 potholes that they had to try and avoid. Second one was head-to-head. Everyone's been talking about, including us on this show, for weeks, ever since they started unveiling this. What do you do with Notre Dame and Miami? Head-to-head in that game, in that series, those two teams obviously played each other, so this wasn't a one-to-one on-paper scenario. This wasn't comparing two teams like, say, Alabama and Notre Dame in terms of, hey, we don't know who would win this game. We don't know who would because we haven't seen it. But in Notre Dame and Miami's case, we saw it. We all saw it in week one, and I get it. It's week one. That feels like ages ago. It was ages ago. And those two teams are not the same two teams they were in week one. Teams grow and evolve. Some teams decline over the course of the season. You make your inferences as to who you think did what. But Miami won the game in week one. And aside from that, these two teams have equal resumes. Kind of one for one. They're right along the same lines in terms of strength of schedule. They're right along the same lines in terms of strength of record. And they have the same win-loss record at the end of the day, even with Miami having the head-to-head. So what do you do there? If you don't put the winner of that head-to-head in, then the committee sends a message to the rest of college football that head-to-head does not matter anymore. That there is no realistic value to that game even happening. Miami and Notre Dame, you're sending the message that Miami and Notre Dame shouldn't even bother playing each other in the regular season. Because win or lose, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So, those were the two things that the two potholes in this whole situation that the college football playoffs had to figure out how to fill or avoid. And in my book, they did a pretty dang good job because head-to-head still matters. Notre Dame beat Miami, or Miami beat Notre Dame. Miami needs to be in the college football playoffs over Notre Dame. That matters. Has to happen. We saw the game. Everybody did. That's why the Hurricanes are in. As for Alabama, conference championships, you shouldn't be punished for losing a conference championship. Wholeheartedly agree. Wholeheartedly agree. And Alabama, through 12 games, that's a playoff team. Even with the loss to FSU, they are a playoff team. They have wins over Vanderbilt, have wins over Tennessee. They have a win over now number 3 Georgia in their own building. Like, that is a playoff team. Regardless of the eye test of the last 4 games, they had to be in the college football playoffs because if you didn't, the talks about the waning of importance of conference championships only grow louder. Nobody would want to play in that game if Alabama got left out, so you couldn't get left out. I'm giving him credit there. Now, here's where my issues start. Simply put, my issues with this 12, with the bracket, with the college football playoff is this. It's not on the committee. My issues with the committee is I don't know why it took this long for them to finally realize that, hey, Miami needs to be in this playoff, not Notre Dame. My issues are all structural. It's with the circumstances they were given. These auto bids, you're guaranteeing 5 conference champions are going to make the college football playoffs. And this year, there are not 5 conference champions that are worthy of making the college football playoffs. They're not. The college football playoff committee has told you that with their rankings. There is a reason that only 3 of the 5 conference champions are ranked inside the top 12. James Madison, Tulane are not even ranked inside the top 15. Those teams, according to the committee's own rankings, are not playoff-worthy teams. And nobody can make a case that they are. Because, yes, as much as I'm having to bang the drum that Miami should be in the college football playoffs over Notre Dame's a playoff-worthy team. They are. They have the talent. They have somewhat the resume. I get it. They lost. Their 2 losses are 2 of the top-ranked teams they played, Miami and Texas A&M. Say what you want, but that's a playoff team. They deserve to be in the playoff, especially over Tulane and James Madison. But the committee can't change that. That's not something they can do. Because if they could, they would be in. That's a structural thing. That's the board of directors, whatever the heck you want to call them, the people in charge of deciding the structure of the college football playoffs. That's for them to decide. And depending, like as shown over the last 6 months, I don't know when they're going to decide it because it's certainly taken so damn long to decide even if the sport's going to stay at 12, if they're going to stay with the structure that's now going into its second season of being a 12-team playoff, or if they're going to expand it further, which I get it. I'm done talking about expansion on the show. I hate it because y'all know where I stand. If you've watched this show for even a couple minutes over the last few years, you know, and even Dan agrees with this. I think Kobe agrees with this, is we're against expansion because expansion isn't actually fixing anything. It's not. If you're going to go to 16 teams, heck, if you're going to go to 14 teams and you're going to keep this structure of 5 conference champions are guaranteed bids in the college football playoffs, there is a chance, just like right now, that you have 2 out of the 5 conference champions not even being top 15 teams. So what are we doing? We're going to keep this same structure. We're going to add more teams in so we can include the Notre Dame, the Vanderbilts, the Texases of the world who feel left out because of this dumb structure, this broken system. We're just going to expand it, and we're not going to change that. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're going to expand, and then they're going to change the auto bid structure because I think that's the most guaranteed way of fixing this issue. This is a travesty for the sport. It's kind of an embarrassment that you have 2 teams in this field that have no realistic shot of winning the national championship. When the playoffs were first invented for the college football play, like for college football, everybody always talked about this is going to give us the best teams, the best 4 teams, or the best 12 teams are going to play for the right to play in the national championship game. They fallen short of that. They have, because this year, I'm going to say this is probably the top 8. The best 8 teams in college football are playing for the national championship because I don't think you have the best teams, all 12 of the best teams in. There are a few that are sitting on the outside looking in. And I'd make an argument Notre Dame is probably one of the best 12. I think talent-wise, Texas is probably one of the best 12. And if Dan's watching that, I'm sure he might even have a comment about that coming up when he gets here. But this is a structural issue. The system is broken. And yes, we can whine, we can scream, we can yell at the committee. But in terms, my opinion on this, they did the best they could with the hand they were dealt. If you kept Alabama out of the playoff, if you're losing the SEC championship game, you devalue one of the top 2 conference championship games in the sport tremendously. And it's already taken a massive hit. Already. You couldn't deal what essentially would have been the death blow to that game in terms of importance by keeping Alabama out. And on the other note, head-to-head, that has been one of the most important criteria in all of this debate. Over the, 10, 11 years now that the college football playoff has been a thing, is head-to-head matters. Apparently, strength of schedule is supposed to matter. I don't think this shows it because two of your five conference champions are not playing a tough schedule at all, but they're considered equals to the rest of them. That's a problem. So, and how do we fix this? And that's the question. And to me, the way you fix this is you get rid of the auto bids. And it's not a one patch that patches it all, that patches all of the issues here. This is like a sinking ship. There's a ton of holes in this boat, and the water's filling it up fast. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to patch every hole. That's just the way it is. Because if you take away the auto bids, you get rid of the opportunity or the inclusiveness of keeping the G5 in this thing. The G5, realistically, is the only reason auto bids are a thing. Because everybody knows it, yet nobody wants to say it out loud that the G5 is not playing the same sport. The best G5 team in the country is not playing at the same caliber of football that the best Big Ten team is. Heck, that even the 4th SEC team is. 4th best SEC team. Ole Miss showed you that. In the regular season, Ole Miss beat Tulane 45-10, I believe the score was. That's the issue with this whole thing. is they're not playing the same sport. They're not playing on the same level, yet they are being treated as equals. And frankly, I know it brings in revenue for them, and I'm sure they probably much rather have this millions and millions of dollars that they get from playing in the national championship, from playing in this structure of the college football playoffs, as opposed to an alternative that maybe this is what they want. But for the rest of the sport, I don't think this is the right thing. It's not. And this isn't a new idea at all. Everybody's talked about it. Everyone's put it out there. But I think we are getting close to a breaking point in this sport where the possibility of the super leagues that have been talked about for the last 18 to 36 months maybe are getting one step closer. Because with each passing failure of these college football playoffs, in terms of the committee, in terms of the selection process, in terms of all these teams feeling that they've been wronged, we're getting closer and closer. Because how much longer is the SEC, the Big Ten, heck, maybe even the Big 12 now, are going to want to sit here and put up with the fact that they are forfeiting a spot for one of their best teams in the playoffs to include the G5? Right now, it already seems like patience is running short. And for the betterment of the sport, I would love to see the G5 go off and do their own thing. Because everything that we've discussed for the last 17 minutes, as Dan joins us still at a perfect time, is the committee, I think, has done the best thing they could with the hand they were dealt, because everything else above it, all these main issues, are things the people in charge of making the structures and the rules for the college football playoff committee need to be fixed. Dan, welcome in, sir.
What's up, buddy?
Good to see you, man. I just, in short summary of the disaster scenarios that the college football playoffs could have had, I thought this was the one of least disaster, because head-to-head still matters. Miami had to get in over Notre Dame, and you couldn't punish the top two most valuable conference championship game loser. You can't punish that loser and further deal a death blow to that game by keeping Alabama out.
See, I'm 100% the opposite. I don't think that Miami has any business being in this tournament. How can a team that did not even play for a conference champion because it wasn't as good as the two teams playing, and then neither one of those teams that play for the conference champions, they're not in. But then you're going to put a team in who didn't play in that game, but you're not going to take the conference champion. It's complete horse shit. That's bullshit. I'm not here for it. I'm like, if you know what, if you were going to put Duke in and say, hey, they won the ACC, they're in. I may not like it. I can live with it. Having Miami in this damn tournament when they didn't even qualify for the game, and then you're going to tell me the ACC champion is not good enough to play in this tournament, but you're going to put Miami, complete and utter bullcrap, just nonsense. And then, like to your point, we have the number 25 team in the country in this damn tournament. It has no business being in this tournament. Cannot win a game. There's not one team in this tournament they can beat. Not one, except for maybe Tulane, who doesn't deserve to be there either, because they can't win a game. So
we've already seen it. Yeah, I mean, we've already seen it.
What are we doing? Tulane. What are we talking about? Oh, this is the best 12 teams in the country. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. This is a complete joke.
We have the best 8. Dan. The best 8?
Fuck. I don't know.
Best 7?
Man. The best 6. I don't know. I mean, listen, Alabama's in there. Alabama's in there with 3 losses, but you're going to kick. Listen, and I'm not saying Alabama doesn't deserve to be in. Okay, I think Alabama is one of the best teams in the country by far. But they're a 3-loss team. You got 1-loss teams and 2-loss teams. They're out. You can't penalize the team for playing. Hey, where's BYU?
I agree. I mean, look.
Hey, listen. Georgia loses back-to-back defending champion. They go from 1 to 6. Out. See ya. Get the hell out of here. Bama loses. They don't lose a spot. Not a spot. I mean, Ohio State loses. They're number 2. It's okay. They haven't played a goddamn team all year long. Not one. They haven't played one team all year long. Oh, they're in number 2. Georgia beat the only team that beat them by 21 points. Smoked the shit out of them. They got the same record. Georgia's got a better resume, better strength of schedule, better strength of record, more ranked wins, all of it. Nah, F you. You're 3.
And a conference championship.
I mean, this is worse than anything a computer ever spit out. This is I mean, you can tell. I'm first of all, I'm a little fired up anyway. And then on top of that, you just throw this in my face, and this is how we start the show. Welcome to me. I'm glad I came in right at the right time.
Hey, brother, I had like we talked about. I was like, all right, I'm gonna fill like 10 minutes, and I'm like, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way because when Dan gets in here, we can go ahead and roll in this game. But yeah, I think we're both. I think in terms of the instances here, I think we're overarching. I think we're both in agreement. The system itself is broken in terms of the auto bids gave us this. We walked ourselves into this corner in terms of the auto bids. Want to see those done away with. Think that's the best way of doing things. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to agree to that. Because
Miami has no business in this tournament. And I don't care who you put in. You can leave Notre Dame out, say, oh, they beat them head-to-head. Notre Dame doesn't deserve to be in. That's fine. I don't care. They can't be in. But that's my thing. Miami can't be in this tournament. They can't. You just told me that there was 2 better ACC teams. Where the hell are they at? Miami can't be in this tournament. I don't give a shit if you put the Citadel in here. It just can't be Miami.
Yeah. It's like I said, I unfortunately, and maybe you disagree with this, I think this is the path of least disaster because I think if you put Notre Dame in over Miami, then you're 100% throwing, like, those games are going away. There's no incentive to those games even being in place. And then if you take out, and I get it, BYU got left out after playing the conference championship. Virginia did as well. Like those 12-game sample sizes, both of them were in the playoffs last week. Then they played a 13th game, something not everybody else had to do, and they're left out. So yeah, I mean there is contradiction here, and that's the issue. But I can't. I will say, I think this is where I stand. The road I was going to die on here in terms of this, like these 12 is not the road I die on or the hill I die on. The hill I was going to die on was Notre Dame shouldn't get in over Miami, and you shouldn't have taken Alabama out of the playoff for playing the conference championship. Well, that was the hill I was going to die on. But and I get it, BYU and Virginia is left out, but BYU and Virginia don't have an equal road. It's not. Conferences are not created equal. So Alabama had a tougher road to even get to their conference championship than BYU and Virginia did. Is my whole point. But that's the whole inequity and the issue of this all is the structure's been set up to say that all 5 conference champions are created equal, and that's not the case.
No, and then I think the other thing that just really infuriates me to no end is look at the bottom half of that bracket compared to the top half of that bracket. Alabama, Oklahoma's not that great. Alabama, not that great. Oregon, we have no idea what they are. And listen, I love Oregon, but they played one game all year and they lost it. James Madison is horseshit. Texas Tech, I don't know. Look, I'm not trying to crap on Texas Tech. BYU's coach tells you that they're the best team in the country. I don't buy that. But they're definitely a good football team. Then Indiana obviously played 2 games. And they won them both. To their credit, they won them both. But they didn't have to play Michigan. They didn't have to, they didn't have. I don't know. I really feel like there's an opportunity for the right group of people to be in the room. But then at the end of the day, and as much as I hate to say it, they're, the people, talking about this is the ESPN Invitational. and like it's all party lines, and I don't know. I was just furious about it today. So I'm sorry. I apologize.
I think there's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people because my whole thing is I don't think they were ever going to get this right.
Well, and
There
then
was no right answer.
I'm really the Georgia not moving in the polls at all really infuriated me. Now, listen, at the end of the day, take my anger and everything else out of it, it doesn't change anything. I mean, it's a difference between playing Ole Miss in the second round or playing Texas A&M in the second round, right? I mean, like, that's it doesn't change a whole lot. Both of them are very good football teams, and
And you're still probably gonna have to play Ohio State in the semis, if Ohio State stayed. Yeah.
So like it doesn't change anything. It's just the principle of it. It's like you just beat the number 1 seeded SEC team to win the SEC champion. And make no mistake about it, Alabama was ranked the number 1 seed in the SEC. You beat them. Granted, I mean, listen, let's call a spade a spade. It's a damn home game for us, but whatever. We beat them. We avenged it.
It was pretty close to 50-50 crowd. But yes, in terms of distance.
You get my point. But so like I said, it doesn't change anything. It's just the principle of it that Ohio State stays above you, losing their game. I don't know. And then, a non-conference champion. Like, what are we? I don't know. Well, anyway, I don't want to spend any more time on that because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter what we think. Hell, you got to win the football game anyway, right? Just beat whoever. Kirby would tell me to shut up and play whoever's in front of us. That's what Kirby would tell me, that I'm crying too much. That's what he would tell me. But let's talk about the football game. I am so fired up to talk about this football game. I think I got all my swear words out already.
I don't think you used one yet.
Oh no, I did.
Oh, did
not
you?
Bad one. So I haven't.
Maybe it flew over my head then.
Hey, listen, they stay on you only got to avoid the first 15 minutes of the thing before, and then it stops scanning it for cuss words. So I think we're okay.
All right. Well, we're good then. Where do we want to start, Dan? There's so many like stories from this game. Like you talk about the story of Cole Spear, you talk about the story of the Georgia-Alabama rivalry, you talk about the story of Alabama having a 17-game win streak in Atlanta over the years. Like, there's so many stories here. And I think we'll start here. Remember coming off of the Alabama game, we came on this show. Maybe it was the Sunday show. No, it wasn't. I don't think we had a Sunday show that week. I think we did. It was the Wednesday show because I think we just had a Wednesday show after that. And we came on here and we were the main question was, hey, this is like the 4th or 5th time in the last like 18 months that Georgia has just gotten absolutely whipped in the first half of a game, whether it be versus Alabama, Georgia Tech. Like, you just got out-coached for the first 30 minutes and ended up costing you the game. And there were a lot of questions on defense. Your defense particularly did not play well in the first half, played much better in the second half. And my question to you, like, the whole question was, what the heck needs to change? What is it? Like, why are they essentially just throwing away the first 30 minutes of a game? And I think it's been building over the last like 4 or 5 weeks, but we finally got the answer, Dan. And I think last night gave us the final answer, the conclusive answer. It's a combination of, it was a young team with a lot of the most first and second year players of a Kirby Smart roster in his Georgia tenure, the youngest team he's had. And it's a combination of those guys growing up, those guys getting experience, especially on defense, and Georgia, Glenn Schumann, finding the ways to put his talent, what he has, in the best position to win.
Yeah, how to properly deploy them would be the excellent way to put it, because he has figured that out, right? He has figured out exactly what he needed to do and how to be successful. And, I think the bigger overarching storyline was that Georgia they just find a way to not win that game. And I don't want to say, I don't really know exactly how to phrase that like poetically, but just for whatever reason, that game just never made sense. Like, Georgia would have talent advantages, could never get it done. And, that was kind of the doom and gloom coming into this week, and thank God I wasn't on that prediction show. Because obviously I'm going to pick Georgia to win, but like my confidence level was not extremely high, just because of everything that always goes on with that game. And then, like you said, early in the season, it seemed like the first half of football games, we just couldn't figure it out. Just couldn't offensively, couldn't figure it out. Defensively, couldn't figure it out. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about it was just a really young and inexperienced football team. Very talented all across the board. And I think that was the biggest reason for everyone's frustration, is because you knew how talented they were, but the results weren't matching the talent level. But you do have to say, Georgia just kept winning. They just kept finding ways to win. And that goes down to just the thing that Kirby keeps harping on, Gunner keeps harping on, is the competitiveness of this team. Does never say die, never giving up attitude. And you're right. We've been talking now for a couple of weeks that Georgia's really the only team in the country that's on a trajectory like this. Everybody else is kind of flatlining or dipping a little bit. Georgia just continues to climb. And that gives you insane amounts of confidence going into the tournament, as to where last year was completely different, right? We lost Carson Beck, and, you can have your opinions on Carson Beck, and that's fine. I'm sure we may agree with most of them. But the fact that you're going to have a first-time starter in a national semifinal game, that's tough sledding, man. And it proved to be a little bit too much last year. Well, this year, they've kind of gotten that all out of the way. And, part of me, and I don't know about you, so I don't want to speak for you, but part of me, like, obviously I have like a lot of confidence now because of the product, like the game that they just played looked so good and so complete. But at the same time, like, is that next letdown coming? Like, you don't want to see that again. But you're right. Glenn Schumann and his defense, they have just coached these kids up to a point where they're playing fast and free now. And I think that's the biggest difference between early and now, is I think they were doing a lot of thinking on the field, and it slowed them down. They are not thinking now, buddy. They are flying and hitting. And my gosh, are they so much improved from that first time we played Alabama.
How many times when you watch them on defense did you catch yourself, man, like, oh, wow, what a tackle. Like, man, like, there's that speed. I mean, shoot, one of the first third downs of the game, Chris Cole has like 3 or 4 yards of separation, comes downhill to get the guy on the drag route, and he brings him down like 3 yards short of the stick. Short of the sticks. Like, Ellis Robinson, the first third down of the game, Bama designs that outside run, and they have it designed to block, to leave everybody other than Ellis Robinson, the farmost outside corner, unblocked. And they're just saying, hey, we're going to make you come downhill and tackle this guy. And if you don't do it, it's going to be a big gainer. Ellis Robinson goes out there and tackles him for a loss on the first third down of the game. Like, those were the plays that you didn't see get made early on, and they started to get made. And heck, Dan, we talked about this last night when we talked about it after the game. You started to see the bounce of the ball go Georgia's way in a game where the bounce of the ball went the other way. Like, a tipped interception going Georgia's way. I don't remember the last time. Like, heck, you remember the national championship in 2021 that Georgia won. The bounce of the ball, Brian Branch catches the ball nonchalantly with a foot in bounds on a fumble that wasn't a fumble.
Right.
Georgia got that bounce.
And the other thing you asked, like the moments where you say, wow, is other than the Bernard touchdown, right? Every time Ryan Williams would get loose, right? It seemed like in last year's game when we played Alabama, Ryan Williams would get loose and nobody could catch him. Ryan Williams got loose a couple different times, but we limited him. I think his biggest game was like 13 yards, where that play could have been a touchdown down the sideline, but we got to him. On that one little end around, he gets loose, and we end up stopping him for like 4 or 5 yards. Like, that's when you're talking about the speed popping, that's where it was different. It's like he didn't get, I mean, he got a little loose, but he didn't get loose like he had in the past. So
he limited the damage.
Yeah, I mean, he busted that spin move, and last time we saw that spin move, it did not bode well for us. But it was good, and so many faces and so many names making plays Your guy Dink out there just making plays all over the place. Slinging Ryan Williams down the sideline. That was awesome. But, like, I think one of the guys who just really stands out to me right now is QJ, Quintavious Johnson. Like, my goodness gracious, there were so many times he was in the right spot at the right time, making great tackles, getting pressures, right in the quarterback's face, harassing him all night long. On that business decision slide that you didn't like from like he like Jonathan Williams said in our group text, that man had murder on his mind. He was going to absolutely clean his clock. So that was a very smart decision by Simpson, or he may not have lived to see another down. So,
and QJ, that's like Quintavious is the perfect example of what we were just talking about in terms of young guys being in new spots. I mean, he and Ellis Robinson were both on the roster last year, but outside of reserve minutes and garbage time, those guys rarely played. And now they're starters on this defense, playing every single damn snap. And Quintavious Johnson went from being a plus run defender who showed some upside as a pass rusher to now being he's putting it together in the pass rush, starting to get more pressures. Heck, even Gabe Harris, a guy I've been talking about on this show for over a year now because he was playing as a supporting cast guy last year. He's looking more explosive, looking more freaky in pass rush department, looking like what we thought he would be. Like those guys are growing up and those guys are playing at a super high level, and it's made all the difference in the world. And real quick, remember the last time Georgia played in the SEC championship, and they made a surprise change at star, and how that they went from Latavius Brini, who was the starting star all season long. You get to that game, and you bring in William Poole, who rarely played, who's been on the roster, but rarely played. You bring him in, and he didn't lose you the game by himself, but he was kind of a weak point. They targeted him. They went after him, and it got exposed, and Georgia lost. Now, contrast that with what we saw on Saturday. Rashawn Dinkins surprises the world, goes from a reserve who was playing for Charlotte in garbage time to he was playing 39 snaps on Saturday as Georgia's starting star in place of Jonel Aguero, a two-year starter, and you didn't hear Rashawn Dinkins' name called in terms of giving up a touchdown or giving up big plays. Like you said, you get his name called because he swung Ryan Williams down on the sideline.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, those guys are just making plays everywhere. And is it Ja'Cory Thomas, number 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the huge sack. Yeah, he had a huge sack. I mean, that was an important time of the game. And like even guys who have experience, like Dalen Everett, like he played a whale of a game. I mean, he didn't have the easiest assignment, guys. Like he was drawing, was it Horton for the most of the game? And I don't remember Horton's name being called, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure he had a catch, but I don't recall anything. And like just the front four getting the pressure that they were able to get with an occasional extra blitzer coming here or there, shooting, dialing up a little bit more pressure, they couldn't take those deep shots that they wanted to take. And if you watch the game on television, Kirk and Fowler were begging Alabama to take shots down the field, but they just couldn't. There was a certain point in the game where Herbstreit was like, we've been begging for these deep shots, but they can't. Like Simpson can't get comfortable enough to take that shot. So all the credit in the world goes to that defensive staff. They put together a hell of a game plan, and those kids executed it as well as you possibly could, I think.
Yeah. Dan, second point, and this is something we've talked about. Guy, I don't know how many we've done what 4, 5 Bama games together, like show wise. I think 4 or 5 now. I think we've never done. We didn't do the show together in 21, so we weren't here when they won it. But we've done the shows after that. So 23 SEC championship, I think, was the first Bama game we previewed together because they didn't play in 22. Every single time we come on here and it was like, why is Georgia play everybody else like Georgia, play Georgia football for everybody else? Then the one Crimson Egg comes up and they don't play Georgia football. I think Saturday was the most Georgia performance, hey, we're going to do what we do, and it's going to win us the game that I've seen them play versus Alabama. They did everything they said they're going to do. A, they stopped the run, and B, they ran the ball. In years past, how many times you get in a game like that and you see Georgia go away from their principles? You go away from the run because they know they're sitting there thinking, oh, we're not going to beat Bama running the ball. They said, screw that. We're gonna beat you running the football. Like, that was the most Georgia-esque performance, the most confident Georgia performance I've seen versus that team in this era. Because every other time we've talked about this game, we come away with the question of, why won't they play Alabama like they play everybody else?
Well, and if you think about some of the other games, remember, they would do something defensively they haven't done all year long, right? They would change I just, to me, it seems like, and I'm not the biggest X's and O's guys in the world, but to me, it felt like Georgia's like, all right, this is what we do, and we're going to do it better than what you can do. And they just did. But it's like the first time I can recall where they just lined up and, like, to your point, they just played Georgia football. They were like, all right, we're not changing a damn thing. This is what we do, and we're going to do it. And, beat us if you can, and they couldn't. And I really felt that very strongly watching that game. I was like, there was no tricks. We weren't doing anything fancy. We weren't doing any. I don't think we didn't run a trick play. I mean, unless you want to try to call that running the fake punt out there. I mean, but that doesn't really count. There was no trick plays. There's no flea flickers. There was no, trying
nothing
to bring
gimmicky about it.
Nothing gimmicky. It was just, we're going to line up and play football and try to beat us if you can. And I that was such a breath of fresh air to see Georgia just be like, all right, we're not gonna do any of that. You're gonna need the trick plays tonight. We're not gonna need them. And they just, man, that game was so enjoyable. Although when Alabama did score the touchdown, I will admit I jumped up and was like, here we go. All right, this is how it ends.
I told you. Everybody, people I was talking to during the game, I'm like, y'all getting ready for the meltdown? Like, is this the beginning? Like, is it starting? Like, everybody's sitting there holding your breath till 000 is like, hey, are we gonna have to write about another Georgia letdown? Never came.
Oh, and I will say I was kind of sitting on my hands for the longest time, waiting for the bad snap, waiting for the snap over the head, or a bobbled something or another that ends up in a Bama guy's hands for an easy touchdown, or just something stupid to happen that always seems to happen. But like I said, that scoring drive had all the earmarkings of, this is the type of shit that happens where you get just an insanely dumb personal foul when QJ gets the sack that completely wipes that out, and that's 3rd and long, and now it's an automatic first down. Then 2 plays later, you get the pass interference, and they're like right down the field. And then you have the little swing pass out to Bernard, and he just scampers down to the end zone. Nobody touches his ass. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is the beginning of the end. But then, to Georgia's credit, they didn't let it happen, man. They just didn't let it happen. And that's a mark of a well-coached football team. Kirby has even been on record, and he was even on record Saturday night saying we got out-coached the first time we played them. And they made their corrections, and those kids bought in. And I think that's something that needs to be said too, is you can have all the coaches in the world. You can have the best coaches in the world. But if the kids don't buy in, if they don't really believe in what you're trying to do, it doesn't matter. But those kids bought in, hook, line, and sinker, and they played their asses off, bro.
And going back to kind of what you're talking about with, Georgia not allowing Bama to get back in that game. Like, I go back and I'm looking at the drive chart, and Alabama ended up having just enough possessions left in that fourth quarter they could have tied this game up in regulation. They could have. They had 3 possessions.
At 21, not at 28.
At 21. At 21. Obviously, they'd have to get a stop. And they would have to be perfect. They'd have to go 3 for 3 on touchdown drives on their 3 drives, and they'd have to stop Georgia. They had just enough possessions to tie it at 21 if they wanted to, if they could have. And I mean, look, Dan, as much as you say you got up and you were saying like, oh, here we go. When they scored, what did Georgia do? Georgia went 5 and out. The responding drive, they went 5 and out. And you're like, oh, crap. This is Jalen Hurts comes off the bench. hits the touchdown to cut the lead to a touchdown, and then, see what happens. How many times has the momentum swung in this game and Georgia can never get it back? And what did they do? And maybe you disagree with this, I don't know. But how many times, like, Kirby Smart has been criticized over and over and over again in these games for pressing at inopportune times and making a risky decision that ends up to bite them. 4th and 11 fake punt. Heck, 4th and 1 in Athens. Just this past year, everybody's down his throat about that and down his throat about the personnel. Well, shit. Kalen DeBoer did one of the most just crazy, just 4th down decisions that I've seen inside his own 15-yard line after his team scored a touchdown to cut it to 2 scores and just forced a 5 and out, decides, I'm going to go for it with everything to lose inside his own 15-yard line. And they turn it over on downs, Dan. I mean, he legitimately took the dagger and gave it to Kirby Smart to plant it in his back. I mean, legit just handed it to him.
Now, listen, he addressed that after the game, and I you got to tip your cap at some point where he was like, I felt like, we're here to win the game. We're not here to keep it close. So, I was going to take a shot and believe in my guys that we could get a 4th and 2. Now, granted, that's crazy, right? I mean, that, like, where you're doing that at, like, if you don't get it, you're guaranteeing Georgia a touchdown almost. Georgia did everything in their power not to score a touchdown on that damn drive. But at the end of the day,
like, if it's
I'm not
going
to murder a coach for trying to win the damn football game. I'm just not going to do it. Like, I agree with you, and you're right. It's insane. It's dumb.
If it was anywhere past the Bama 25, like anywhere close to the Bama 40, no one's talking about it. Like, hey, yeah, you have to.
But you know what? How many times have you heard Nick Saban say there were times where he went for it in an unconventional spot and their kids either got it or didn't get it, but it rallied the sidelines. Like, my coach believes in me. He was telling that story about one, they went for it on their side of the field. They didn't get it, but then his defense forced a 3 and out and got the ball back because they were just completely hyped up that their coach believed in them. So, I mean, you can dissect that all you want. That obviously that hurt them with their opportunity to come back, but he had a big hill to climb. Like you talked about, they had to score on every drive and they had to get stops in every drive. They almost had to be perfect anyway. So I get it. I get why he did it. Ultimately it cost them the game, right? I mean, because once Georgia went up 28-7, there was no coming back from that point. I mean, with the amount of time left in the game, I mean, crazy shit, like worse than 28-3 kind of stuff would have had to happen for that to work out for them. But yeah, it's 4th and 2. You feel like, that they want to tell everybody they have the best offense in the country. You would think that you could get 4th and 2, but that was a terrible pass. It was,
and your O-line was a mismatch for Georgia's defensive line, is what you said publicly.
Yeah. I mean, so I like I said, I understand why he did it. In retrospect, it was a horrible decision, but I'm not going to murder a guy for, taking a chance. I mean, what does he have to lose at that point? You're probably not going to win the game anyway. But that was kind of like your really only shot. I think your bigger questions would be like, what did you do on 2nd and 3rd down?
Yeah.
But then also, we always say this when Georgia loses. You got to give credit to the other team sometimes. They're allowed to make good plays too. And Georgia did. Georgia made a lot of really good plays. And they rallied to the football and they were where they were supposed to be. So, and I think that's one of the funniest things to me is all the excuse making about, oh, well, Bama was hurt. Well, we're hurt too. Bama didn't play their best football. Well, you know what? There's almost every one of the wins that you got against us, we didn't play our best football. And, so this is one of those situations where the shoe was on the other foot this time. We had to take it from your asses for 7 other times. So chew on this one, big boy.
And I don't like defensively. Georgia played its best game, and there's no taking that away from them. On the flip side, I don't think the offense played its best game, nowhere near. And I'm not saying this to take anything away from Georgia's offense because it's easier said than done. Like Georgia easily could have just ended up kicking field goals with all these short fields. They went down, took advantage of the shorter fields because I mean, shit. One of them, you have a 6-play 40-yard drive after Bama's opening punt, thanks to Zachariah Branch on punt return, setting you up for that. You had a touchdown drive of 3 plays for 12 yards. You had a touchdown drive of 14 plays for 57 yards. And you had a touchdown drive of 4 plays for 21 yards. So Georgia didn't have to drive the length of the field for any of its scoring drives. And that's a credit to Georgia's defense. That's a credit to their special teams. That's even a credit to Georgia's offense for scoring touchdowns every single time they had a shorter field. But, outside of that, Georgia's offense had to punt. I think Brett Thorson punted 7 times exactly in this game. So by no means did Georgia's offense play its best.
And they weren't explosive.
They weren't explosive. Yeah, you're right. They weren't explosive. Longest run was 19 yards, which, heck, I know that's an explosive play, but I would have to go back. I wish I had the stat broadcast still to see how many explosive runs they had of 15 yards or more. I don't imagine it was much.
But we didn't take the top off at any point. We didn't challenge them down the field. We didn't have Noah Thomas. To your point, the defense played absolutely incredible. And I think we've spent 30 minutes talking about this defense. We haven't really talked about the offense at all because there's not really a whole hell of a lot to talk about. Like, they were efficient for sure, but they were not explosive. They were not powerful. They were not daunting. They didn't do anything that was overcomable. The fact that the defense was playing so incredible is what was the story of this game. What the offense did was enough. And I'm not blaming anybody. I think, it's the conversations we've had a million times. I think that offensive staff, along with Kirby, realized they're not going to score on us today unless we make a really bad mistake. So let's not make a mistake. Let's just check it down, run the football, methodically move it down the field. I love those 14-play drives, is what Kirby says. And, eat that clock, give our defense a rest and just take care of the football. Don't make a mistake. And I think that's really what the offense did, because I know you and I had talked about there were probably some opportunities to take shots that we just passed on for whatever reason. And I think probably a big part of that is they were like, hey, just don't make a mistake, right? We'll take a 3-and-out and punt as opposed to giving them the ball right here. So I think that's a big part of it too, is that they, granted this offense wasn't explosive, but I almost want to say it's not because of what Alabama did to us. It's because of the mentality. Like, just don't make a mistake and we're going to win this football game. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just my perception.
I haven't had the chance to go back and watch the tape on either side yet. I've started, but didn't get it fast enough so I could actually watch it before we do the show. I'm sure we'll talk about that on Wednesday in terms of what that was. I didn't think, just from watching it live and from the press box, I didn't think Gunner had his best game in the world. And I talked to you about this. Like, I didn't think early on he was seeing things really well. And there was a couple decisions where you're like, ooh, like he could have went here, he could have went there. I still don't think he's playing. I don't think he's played his best football these last 2 games. Now, obviously, this game's different from the last one because even though I don't think he played his best football or had this great game, statistically, he was efficient. And sometimes that's all you can ask for. I mean, he was 20 of 26 for 156 yards with 3 touchdowns. Like, if that's a bad game, Georgia can win the national championship if that's a bad game. Because 12 months ago, a bad game was 2 or 3 interceptions.
Well, the other part of that too is that when he has to put when Gunner has to put his foot on the gas, he's capable of doing it. We've watched him do it against Ole Miss. We watched him do it against Tennessee. We watched him do it. There's another game. Is it Auburn? Maybe I'm thinking of
Auburn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say Auburn too. Yeah.
Yeah. Where he was forced to make plays downfield and he was capable of doing it. So that's what makes me believe he was told in so many words, just don't risk the ball and we're going to be fine, because we know he's capable of doing it. And it's one of those things where he just didn't have to. Now, the one part that he did do, he ran the shit out of the football. He took there was a couple times where he took some shots, and who was Dalen Everett at the press conference with him, He was just like, he's like, he's the toughest damn kid I know. He gets whacked and he gets up like nothing happened. He's like, that's not normal. And I agree with that. And, it was kind of funny. I'll let you say it about how coaches, a lot of times when coaches want to get a kid involved in the game, they'll give him a bunch of quick little screens or something just to get his confidence going. Harrison, how does Georgia get Gunner comfortable in the game? Because I think you nail it.
Give him an opportunity to get hit.
Yeah.
I mean, legit. Early, like all the design runs, most of their design runs come early in the game. And after that, it's purely situational.
Yeah. I think his motor, like whenever he gets hit that first time, his motor turns on. Like he's like, oh, now we're playing football. It's weird.
It's kind of like I've heard quarterbacks talk about it in the pros, like their biggest anxiety coming out of training camp is that first hit. And it's like they just have to get hit once and it's like boom, we're good. Like all the anxiety, all the nervousness is gone. I think it was Daniel Jones. I think I heard talk about it once on I forget where it was, but he was just like, that was my biggest anxiety was I needed to get hit because I hadn't been hit in over a month, like over a year. So I think maybe Gunner's the same way. Maybe it's just, I don't know, just, hey, I called it last night. I said, hey, it's the Cam Scattaboo approach. We're just going to run you into a brick wall until you calm down. I don't know if you get that. Have you seen the Cam Scattaboo running? Yeah. It is funny. And there's not many other quarterbacks like that where the way they settle into a game is just having the opportunity to go get hit. And that's his way to get settled in. And maybe that's just another thing of, well, I'm sure that's part of why he endears himself to this team, because he's not above anybody else. He's not avoiding hits. He's not, hey, running back busts his assignment. I'm about to get killed, so I'm going to go ahead and just take a knee and avoid the hit. Sorry, Ty Simpson, but I don't think Gunner would have need that personally. Dan, you would agree with me. I think 14 probably would have tried to truck the guy.
Yeah, but he would have been looking to run.
Yeah, he would have been looking to run anyways. But anyways, 14 is playing at a level, even on a not so good game, where you just have confidence that they can go win a championship with this guy. And with the way the field's pointed out, with the way the field's worked out, if things go how we think they're going to go, you're essentially, in my view, playing in the national championship game in, I believe it's the Fiesta Bowl versus Ohio State, hypothetically. And the winner of that game goes on to win it all, is my view. So, and right now, with the way 14's playing, I like Georgia's chances to go do it. I mean, really, Dan, it's all about how they manage the break. And, last year, every team that had a bye week lost. But, football has a funny way of reversing and ordering itself out. Who's to say that the team in the bye weeks go 2-2, 2 lose, 2 win. And we're back to normal and people stop talking about the bye weeks being disadvantages.
Well, Kirby said something pretty interesting about how last year was the first time that condition existed. So he said there wasn't really anybody to go to speak on exactly how you're supposed to work that out. And he said he felt like they did a little too much. And like Saban even said that his takeaway was that he thought a lot of those teams did a little too much during the break. And you do need to scale back a little bit and kind of pace yourself when you have that much time off. It'll be interesting. And, I know that, you're talking about down the road after that Notre Dame game last year. I don't even care to look forward. It's like whoever that first game is, whether it be Ole Miss or Tulane, it's gonna be Ole Miss. Who are we kidding? You got to be ready.
Don't
to
look
play.
Beyond that one. Yep.
Do not look beyond that one. And listen, I know Ohio State's looming, and they are an extremely talented football team. I granted they lost to Indiana. I got it. I watched the game. I know they lost. You can't take away any. I mean, you could say they didn't play well, whatever the case may be, but they're still an insanely talented football team. It doesn't matter that they haven't played anybody all year long. It doesn't matter. The talent level on that team still exists. It's what it is.
They're probably one of the fresher teams, and just in terms of snaps.
Absolutely,
guys not having to play all these tons of snaps.
Now they're going to have their hands full if they have to play Texas A&M though. So it's not like they have a cakewalk either. But anyway, my point is, all my focus will be on whoever we're playing in that first round, and just take care of business, and then we'll deal with whatever happens after that. But man, I was just so happy to win that football game. I did not want to come on here and do another day after show. I didn't have it in me, bro. Like, I swear to God, if Georgia lost that game, I was going to go into hiding. You probably would. I would be like locked in a dark room. I just can't stand losing those sons of bitches. God almighty.
And it's always the same talking points. Like every one of those games, it's always been kind of the same talking points. It's nice to have something new around here because we've reached the point where we've done so many shows where there's not much new in terms of how some of these games go.
Hell, the only time we ever lose is to them.
Yeah.
I mean, good God, think about
other than the Ole Miss game. That's it. And Notre Dame.
We did like 50 or 60 something consecutive shows coming out after a win without a loss. Remember? Like that one time that we lost to Bama, I think it was the SEC championship game that knocked us out of the playoffs or whatever. We're like, this is the first time
that was the first loss. Yeah, that was the first loss that we've ever done a show after.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was probably one of the best shows we've done.
Well, I don't want
Interestingly enough.
I don't want to rehash it.
No, neither do I. I remember last year we got trolled by Notre Dame fans in our comments after the Notre Dame loss.
Hey,
which was kind of friendly fire.
Yeah, they were in here talking shit before the game too. So like kudos to them. At least they came in here pretty confident before the show, and then they definitely showed up afterwards.
And Miami fans made Dan public enemy number 1 over the summer. That was wild. That was wild. So, hey, maybe we get Miami fans back for a semifinal game, although the odds look slim. All right, Dan, I assume we'll be back Wednesday. So, if not, we'll have an announcement. But I think Kobe is itching at the bit to talk about things. And we got to pace ourselves, too, because we got a lot of time to kill. Sunday shows are going away for the time being. Georgia will play if they win. They're going to play on a Thursday again in the semifinal. So 2 straight Thursday games. So we'll figure out what we want to do in terms of reaction shows once we get closer to then. Obviously, Georgia needs to take care of business before we start talking about a second reaction show. With that being said, actually, hold on. Any comment from Bama Dan on the black hoodie? The famous black hoodie of death, which got retaken out of retirement and then lost again?
Hey, the Black Hoodies lost 2 games in the last 3. So they lost to Oklahoma, then they beat Auburn, right? If I'm not mistaken.
And it was a new hoodie for Auburn. He didn't even wear the original black hoodie for Auburn.
Yeah, well, he was wearing the original one, and we beat the hell out of him. So, hey, listen, your little Sith Lord ain't working out. Gimmicks only work so long, buddy.
Yeah, I wonder. Maybe he'll wear a white hoodie next year.
Oh, I think he got destroyed by Florida State in a white hoodie. I don't think that thing will ever come out again.
All right. Well,
maybe you should go like to gray or something.
He wore red in the Michigan game last year, I think, too. And they lost that game.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They were convinced the black hoodie was unbeatable.
Sheesh. I mean, so much to the point that Eli Drinkwitz interrupted the SEC teleconference to ask him if he was going to wear it this year. So, anyways, all right. That's the Top podcast. That's Dan Kiley. Follow me on Twitter at DanKiley3. I'm at Harrison Reno. Kobe is at Kobe Pierce. He will be back here on Wednesday. Safe travels to the man as he's traveling back from a weekend away. Anyways, we'll see you back on Wednesday, 7:30.
Go Dogs, SEC champs, back to back, baby.